welcome to Red Shoe Angels podcast. I'm Caitlin.
I'm Eric.
Ha! You totally picked up on that.
Uh-huh.
If you were Eric,
Yes.
You would receive the feedback that I've been given.
Which is what?
The feedback that I've been given is that, well, you really talk about yourself a lot.
But you have good stories.
Well,
That's kind of why we're here.
yeah, I mean they're fine. They're fine stories, but I don't just talk about the stories. I also just do talk about myself.
Right.
The reason why I talk about myself so much is because it's the only thing
You know anything about.
Well, I don't know a lot of. I did say that I was actually this. You're leading me into what I was. Okay, I talk about myself because that's the only thing that's really mine. Like I can't steal anybody else's thoughts
Right.
about anything. I can't talk about politics because I don't know what I'm talking about.
Right.
And if I were to say, you know what I've been thinking about, it definitely would have just been something I read that
Right.
someone else said.
Right.
And I don't want to just spit out some things that I heard somebody else say. And there are so many people talking about so many things all the time that either you stay away from all media completely or you only talk about what no one else is talking about,
Which is you.
which is you.
Yeah. I think it's a fine strategy.
So that's why I only talk about myself. So on the way here, I had such a clear understanding of what I was going to talk about. It was so clear in my head. And then on the way here, it just got jumbled up.
So I'm going to keep you on track today.
You're going to try. You're
gonna
just
try.
try.
I'm
You're
gonna
going to
try.
try to keep me on track. We definitely have. You have a. I keep going to say Pat Sajak, but I know it's not Pat Sajak. I know it's Jerry Springer.
Yeah.
But I keep going to say my mind. Do you have a Pat Sajak story?
No, I wish I did, though.
I wish you did too.
Which one is Pat Sajak?
Wheel of Fortune.
Wheel of Fortune. Yeah.
So you have a
don't.
Jerry Springer story
I do.
that we referred to last time
Yes.
that we need to talk about.
Yes.
I have my horror story,
Yes.
which I know is long, that I need to talk about. So we have those two things.
Yep.
Typically, we ramble for a little while anyway.
Yep.
Commence the rambling. So on my way here, I was behind a school bus. School buses don't work the way they used to anymore.
Because they stop every block and a half because children
Block-
are lazy.
Block and a half. I wish it was a block and a half. It's like 15 feet.
Oh,
One kid gets off. This is the
Right.
curmudgeon old man get off my lawn part of the show. They go a little bit, and one person gets off,
right.
and everybody stops.
Yeah.
The person walks all the way to their house,
Mm-hmm.
either met by a parent at the front yard, or all the way into their house before anybody on the bus decides they're going to do the next thing. The next thing is that the street monitor person then has to look under the front tires and the back tires
Yeah.
of the bus
Yep.
every time they stop.
Yes. And then they stop every 15
And then
feet.
they stop every 15 feet and repeat the process over and over again. So where are the magic invisible children coming from? How many times did just random kids throw themselves under the bus and then got smooshed? How many times did that happen before they had to put in place this
Right.
function?
Right. Yes. Yes, I agree.
How many times, Caitlin?
I probably once.
One
Probably
time?
once. It probably happened one time, and then every school bus company in the country instituted this policy.
It's the worst thing ever.
Well, so I agree. That's completely moronic. I have a bigger issue with the lack of distance between the stops.
It's not much distance.
No.
Sometimes it's house to house.
Right. Which
Like,
is
Door-to-door
insane.
delivery
What
of the
happened to
children?
just bus stops that
I don't
were
know.
maybe
know.
4 blocks away from
I don't know.
each other?
I had an entire neighborhood of children all got together at one place, and we all got on the bus at the same time.
Right.
And then we got all off the bus at the same time.
Right.
And nobody gave a fuck what happened to us once we
Well,
were. They didn't
I'm
even care what happened to
guessing
us
that's
while we
the
were on the
problem.
bus. I actually really could have used a bus monitor to maybe stop the girls from beating me up on the back of the bus.
Right.
that probably would have been okay.
Right.
I probably would have appreciated a bigger lady going, "Hey, stop beating up on that man with the bow tie." He's a boy. I was a boy.
Boy with a bow tie.
I'm just picturing myself. Anyway, so that's not even the point.
Right.
As I'm behind this bus and it's going slowly and going slowly and going slowly, and I'm just behind it, on the sidewalk is a dude with a stick.
Uh-huh.
He found some stick.
Does he have a tattoo in the middle of his forehead?
No, this is a different dude.
Different dude.
Well, he had a hat on. There may be a cult forming around my house. I don't know. This guy had his stick, and he was walking slowly, just meandering with his stick, gleefully smashing whatever came within arm length. A fence, bang it with the stick. Some garbage, bang it with the stick.
How
I didn't
old
see
was
him
this person?
older than you would think. Not like a small child, because small children like to hit things with sticks. This was a dude.
Okay.
But he looked so happy.
Teenager?
Older.
Okay. All right.
Older. Too old to be doing this.
Got it. But he looked happy?
But he looked just so content. Just like not a care. I'm just hitting stuff with my stick. And he's just gleefully smashing whatever he saw. Just whack it with my stick and move on. Oh, here's another thing. Whack it with my stick and move on. I was so jealous of him and his happiness.
And he was probably keeping pace with the bus.
I don't know if he was doing
it.
He was definitely keeping pace with the bus. That's why he
Which
was in
means
my vision the whole
He could
time.
have hit every child that ran off the bus.
Well, no, because you have a monitor.
Okay.
You have the child safety monitor who would never allow that to happen. They have to be there for some reason. If they're not there to save the children from getting hit from the dude with the stick, then I don't know why they're there.
Well,
so
they're
you would
there
think
to check under the tires.
they would tisk him away. Tisk you. Don't hit those children with that stick.
And
But
then
he was on
would
the
have been a
other
lot
side.
less
So
happy.
he was on the other
Okay.
side of the street,
All right,
and the
got
children were getting off on the opposite side of the street.
Got it.
He wasn't pacing it purposefully.
Right. I
He
thought
was
there was
just
going to be
meandering
some
along.
sort of intersection between the
Nope.
children and this guy with the stick.
No, I happened to be stuck behind the bus, and I happened to have this guy in my vision as I turtled my way down the street. I had to keep watching him, obviously with no care in the world.
Yeah, that sounds delightful.
Now,
Oh, there's
in
more.
order for you to be somebody who could just happily walk down the sidewalk cranging stuff with a stick,
Yeah, cranging?
it's the best thing to say.
Cranging.
You crang something over the head.
I've never heard that.
Cranging is
Did
the
you
best.
just make it up?
No.
Cranging. Maybe you might have just made it up.
No. I think it's a comic book thing.
Okay, I like it. Go
you
on.
crang that guy over the head. Just, you got to be not that smart. You can't
Sure.
be that smart to be okay doing that for a long time.
For a long
Now,
time.
if you put a stick in my hand and say, "Hey, Eric, go crazy, smack some stuff with a stick," I would do it. But the
You'd
novelty,
be happy for a little while. Like a minute.
maybe.
Yeah.
Unless I got to like tear down walls or some like real destruction.
Right.
He wasn't doing that. He wasn't
Right.
smashing windows.
Right.
He was just like, I have this stick. I'm going to hit this thing and move on to the next thing and then hit that thing. La, 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 la. Hit. Walk. Smack.
Yeah,
I'd be bored
it's a simple
in a minute and a half. Yeah, I'd be bored. So, in order for him to not be bored, he can't be that smart. Now, this is the crux of the thing.
I feel like we're segueing into
We're getting
something
to
here.
the actual
All right.
thing. Stephen and I, our mutual friend Stephen and I, have discussed this many times. He is a smart dude.
He is.
He and our other friend Mark, engineering, kind of like really very smart guys. I may refer to myself as a fucking genius,
yes.
which I did
You did.
last week. The fact of the matter is I'm not a fucking genius. I'm reasonably intelligent. I'm just intelligent enough. I am like halfway through Flowers for Algernon. 3/4 of the way through. I'm like 3/4 of the way through Flowers for Algernon. I'm still kind of smart, but I'm aware that I think I was smarter when I was a kid, and I probably should be smarter than I am. And I realize how
Right.
the depth of stuff that I don't understand.
Yes.
If I was dumber, I wouldn't know that.
Right.
If I was smarter, I would know those things. I'm in this weird place in the middle where I should be smarter or dumber in order to have what I assume would be a more balanced level of happiness.
Got it.
But the level of intelligence I do have means that usually I can understand the plot of a fucking superhero movie.
Here we go. Yep.
Generally, I'm smart enough to know what people are doing and why they're doing it when you're talking about a superhero movie.
So you went to the movies the other night with Steven, our very smart friend. and you would be pulling your hair out right now
if I had
you had any hair.
Oh my God. I can't, we don't have time. We don't have time to go into it. I could literally talk about why this movie is broken for the entire time that we have. So I'm only going to talk about a very specific little piece. Did you see it?
No.
Okay. Don't.
All right.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Unless you can just turn this. Let me tell you something else. If the next person who says to me, dude, it's just a superhero movie. You're supposed to turn off your brain and just enjoy. I want to punch you through your teeth. Stop telling me to turn off my brain and just enjoy a popcorn movie. The primary reason that movies exist is to tell a story.
Yes.
That's the first thing. You have to tell a story. That's why we have movies. You have to tell me a compelling thing where I understand what people are doing and why they're doing it and how they impact each other. I didn't understand what anybody was doing or why they were doing it the entire movie. I don't know why anyone did anything. I don't know why Batman hated Superman. I don't know why Superman hated Batman. I don't know why Lex Luthor wanted Batman and Superman to fight. I don't know why Lois Lane had the kryptonite spear in her hand at one point, and then she just walked up to some deep body of water and just hucked it in, and then 5 minutes later went, that might be important, and turned around and walked back to go and get it again. What the fuck? Why did you throw it in? But that's not even what I'm going to talk about. Okay, so, dude, oh my God. So Lex Luthor, who is played by Jesse Facebook, man. He was the guy who was Facebook man in Facebook. I'm really bad with proper nouns. Definitely a place where my genius completely falls apart. I can't remember anybody's name or anything's name. The guy who was the guy in the Facebook guy.
Yes.
He played Lex Luthor. Now, Lex Luthor typically was a crazy guy.
Yeah.
He was insane. But he wasn't insane like Daffy Duck is insane.
No.
This version of Lex Luthor was Daffy Duck.
That's
jumping around and spinning
ridiculous.
And goofing and just gibbering or gibbering. Gibbering or gibbering?
Gibbering.
Gibbering. Which Lex Luthor shouldn't do.
Well, and what kind of villain does that make him? I mean, you can't be a worthwhile villain if you're just a complete Daffy Duck.
It really felt like they were trying to make him more like the Joker.
Right.
From Batman.
Yeah.
But that's not what Lex Luthor was. He was a businessman.
Yeah.
He was stoic.
Yeah.
Is what he was.
Right.
This is not.
You have to be smart enough and together enough to be a good nemesis.
Yeah. No, he was a lunatic.
Ooh. Can I say something about nemesis?
Yeah.
So I have bought exactly one book of poetry in the last, I don't know, however many years.
I'm sorry.
That I haven't bought more.
No, that you bought any.
That I bought any. And it's from this poet who I know is a friend of mine. And I bought it, I mean, also because I really like him and I like his poetry. But it has the greatest title. This is the greatest title ever. The title of this book is You Don't Have What It Takes to Be My Nemesis.
That's pretty good.
Right?
That's pretty good. And that is something that somebody should have said to Lex Luthor in this movie.
That's what I'm saying.
The two, Batman and Superman, should have looked at him and then looked at each other and went, what are we doing? Why are we? Yeah. Why are we letting
they should
this
just
guy?
Looked him and said, "You don't have what it takes to be our nemesis."
No, and he was just manipulating them Now, Batman is supposed to be... Batman's primary reason for existing is his brain.
Mm-hmm.
The whole detective aspect
Right.
of it is his superpower
Right.
because he doesn't have a superpower.
Right.
So he's supposed to be able to see things and think about things and understand things and figure out riddles. That's his deal.
Right.
He's being flippantly manipulated by Jesse Facebook Eisenberg the entire movie and just falls for everything. Just falls for all of it. But that's not even what I want to talk about. That's not even what I want to talk about. So oh my God, in the last Superman movie, Superman defeats these other guys who come down from Krypton, right?
Right.
And defeats them. Let's not even talk about how many people he killed while defeating them. He just
Okay.
did. They left their ship, big giant ship,
Mm-hmm.
size of a block in Manhattan, huge ship. Jesse figures out a way to get the government to say, hey, can I go in there and just do whatever? And they're like, yeah. Well, first a senator who's Holly Hunter says, no, you can't go in there, with her Holly Hunter voice the entire movie. Like, really go to a diction person at this point because it's getting out of control. But she is like some senator, and she's like, no, I'm not going to let you go in. You can't. No, I don't want you to. And he's like, I'm so angry. Then he meets some other guy in the hallway, and that guy's like, nah, just go ahead. How come? Oh, never mind. Just, yeah. Okay, I can? Yeah. All right, here, have a candy. I'm not kidding.
Seriously?
He, like, shoves a cherry candy in his mouth. I don't...
Also super weird. That
Way,
you're just
dude. He, like,
shoving a piece
he,
of
like,
candy
puts it in and,
somebody-
like, puts his
Ugh,
finger into his
ugh.
mouth. So there's, like,
Blech.
homoeroticism with Lex Luthor. Kinda. And then, oh, dude, he sticks his finger in the guy's mouth.
Yeah.
And then sticks it in his own mouth.
Yeah, of course.
Very odd. Maybe,
Yeah.
of course, in
No, I mean,
your world.
I just mean, of course, if you're already going to be sticking your finger in somebody's mouth and having some sort of weird
I guess.
homoerotic moment in a movie that makes absolutely no
doesn't-
sense
it doesn't make
whatsoever,
a-
that is the next obvious
Not
step.
any sense at all, other than like, oh, he's crazy.
Right.
Look how crazy he is. He could do anything at any time. I'm talking like a gay guy now. So he gets access to this giant spaceship. He also gets access to the previous spaceship captain's body, the guy that Superman killed.
Sure.
Yes, because
That
because
makes all
the
kinds of
other
sense.
senator guy was like, Jesse Facebook says, I want that body too. And that guy's like, okay. Okay. Are you sure? I don't know. Doesn't seem like a good idea. Yeah, go ahead. So they just wheel it over to him. Here's this alien. Here you go.
Uh-huh.
For whatever reason. Here it is. You have it now. So he slices the fingertips. Not even the fingertips. He takes like he slices the fingerprints.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very obvious what he's doing or why
Right.
he's doing it. He's slicing the fingerprints with a kryptonite scalpel,
Mm-hmm.
which is the only way he could do this.
Mm-hmm.
He steals the fingerprints
Right.
of Zod,
Yeah.
who was the captain of the ship previously before
Yep.
Superman killed him. Then he puts the fingerprints on himself,
Right.
his own fingers, and he uses it to open some doorway, which he knows this works. I don't know.
Just cause.
Found a manual. The ship is the size of a city block.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, that door right there looks so important. I better go get some fingerprints. So he opens the door and he goes into this room that looks like it's been destroyed because it's basically flooded with this goo.
Mm-hmm.
He goes into this goo room and he starts just dicking around with shit.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, he's just dicking around with... He doesn't know what he's doing. He's just picking shit up and throwing it down. And the computer in the spaceship wakes up.
Oh, of course.
And the computer's like, hey, what are you doing? And he's like, it's me. Who are you? I'm Lex Luthor. You are? Yeah. What happened to the captain? Well, he's dead. Okay. Do you want to be captain? Yeah. Okay. Now you're captain. Okay. And then the computer says, oh, you know what? Oh, this just occurred to me. Listen, there's like, you could do the super worstest thing in the world. I just remembered. So don't do the super worstest thing, because we have this like thing, and if you do it, it would literally be the worst thing. So don't, whatever you do, don't do that. You could do other stuff, but just this super really, really bad thing that I'm telling you about for no reason at all, please, for the love of mercy, don't initiate the process to kick off the very worst thing in the world. So Lex Luthor says, I think I would like to do that. Let's do it. Let's do the very worst thing in the world. Let's do the very worst thing in the universe. Oh, you really? Yeah. Okay, how do we do that? I guess I need some of your blood because you're human and we're from Krypton. So he slices open his hand and drips some blood and goo with the body of Zod in the goo, and that makes a big super monster. I'm not kidding about any of it.
That's totally moronic.
Now, she says it's a she.
The computer.
The computer's a she.
Of course.
So she says to him initially, see, it's the very, very, there's some simple things that they could have done to make the horrible things a little bit less horrible. So her initial conversation with him is, before we do anything, here's the very super worstest thing. Don't do that. That's the first thing she says. Then they have a little bit more of a conversation, and she says something along the lines of, oh, by the way, I have the knowledge of 100 galaxies and billions of planets. Would you like that knowledge? And he says, yes, I would. Thank you very much. Teach me. Now, if they had had that conversation first, and then after that, when she had like blown some information into his head, after that he went, oh, you know what? You got the worst thing ever on this ship, and I've just figured out how to make it come alive. Now I'm going to do that because at least there's something. At least somebody did something. I don't even understand the motivation of inanimate objects in this movie. None of it makes any sense. They go to the desert initially. Lois Lane is in the desert initially, interviewing some terrorist because she's a journalist, so she does that. She's in the desert, and she interviews a terrorist, and then Lex Luthor had a bunch of guys that he had hired, and he kills his guys, like just kill a bunch of guys in the desert, and then they're going to kill Lois Lane. So, of course, Superman shows up and saves Lois Lane. The entire world gets mad at Superman because this rescue mission ended up with a bunch of people getting killed.
But
well, Superman didn't do it.
Yeah.
They're mad at him because look at all these people who died. But Superman doesn't shoot people. How are you mad at Superman for what happened in Egypt? And they're like, God damn you, Superman. Every time you do something, people get shot. Superman's not doing it. Nothing makes a fucking bit of sense. It doesn't make just nothing. And then Lois Lane, her notebook got shot with a bullet. So she's in the bathroom, and she takes the notebook, and she's looking through her notebook, and she's like, oh, what's this? Oh, it's a bullet. And she pulls the bullet out with like some tweezers or something, because she's a woman who's a journalist living in Metropolis, and she looks at the bullet and she says, I don't recognize this kind of bullet. You're not a fucking artillery specialist. How do you know that bullet is different than any other bullet? And she has to go to the Senate and stick it in some senator's face. She's like, where'd this bullet come from? I've never seen a bullet like this before. You're fucking Lois Lane. You don't know shit about bullets or guns or anything. I hate this movie so much. I hate it so much. Mostly I hate it because I did not understand. I didn't understand. I left and I'm like, I don't know. That's really all you can say. The only good part about the movie was Wonder Woman.
Ah,
And even so, at least most
I
of what
love
she
Wonder
did,
Woman.
she just kind of like, she sort of showed up and like some bad shit was going down. So she's like, I should probably fight.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a big bag boogeyman monster. I'm Lois Lane. No, I'm not. I'm Wonder Woman. I'll fight it. Okay, thank you. Motivation that I understand.
Right.
Bad thing, you fight it. That's all I need.
Mm-hmm.
Just keep it simple. And that's probably all that I want to say about that because my blood pressure is getting high.
Yeah.
And
and I don't know what to do for stroke victims.
yeah.
Here's how much I love Wonder Woman. I had a dream recently, right after I decided to move to New Orleans. I had this really trippy, weird dream that was set in New Orleans, and I was being I don't know, welcomed. There was some guy with a fisherman hat that he put on me and was telling me how it wasn't a fisherman hat. It was a fisherman. He had a hat. It was actually more like a I
Wait
don't
a
know,
minute,
it was
like
really
a
cool
fly
hat.
fishing hat?
No. He was a fisherman. The hat was not a fisherman's hat. The hat was like a
I don't know
fedora.
What
The
is
hat
a
was just
fisherman's hat?
Well,
a
would
fedora?
be well, right. The hat had nothing to do with him being a fisherman. He just happened to be a fisherman who also happened to have a
the
fedora.
fisherman's hat.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
Not a fisherman hat.
Not a fisherman hat.
'Cause now I wanna know what a fisherman
Well,
hat
that
is.
would be the one with all the
A fly fishing hat with the
the
things.
lures
okay.
and stuff
Like-
hanging off of it.
Like a Gilligan hat
Yes.
with fly. Okay.
Yeah, that wouldn't have been as cool. He puts this fedora on my head, and then I walk into this museum, and there are all these great people there. And my friend's mom is cooking us some amazing meal, and I lay down on the floor of this museum to look up at this Tiffany ceiling, you know, like the Tiffany lamp company. Look up at the ceiling, and Linda Carter is on a bicycle riding in circles around me on the museum floor.
A bicycle,
Yes.
not dressed as Wonder Woman.
No, she was not dressed as Wonder Woman.
How do you know it was Linda Carter?
What do you mean? How do I know it was Linda
Oh,
Carter?
Did she like announce, here
No,
comes
she
Linda
looked
Carter?
like Linda Carter.
All right. But not dressed as Wonder Woman.
Not dressed as Wonder Woman. But my love of Wonder Woman as a child revolves around the TV show,
Yes,
which is why Linda Carter showed up.
That's right.
In this magical dream.
I forgot about that. I saw that on Facebook, and it reminded me of a conspiracy story. I have a conspiracy story concerning Linda Carter.
I think that we should move on to
Yeah, I don't.
because you said you have
I
a
really
long
I can't get into it right now.
a long story.
The government was spying on me,
I'm
utilizing
I'm certain that's
Linda
true.
Carter's picture. Just that's for next time.
All right.
Now I got to put that on the next time. Okay, so anyway, don't.
This is our
I
catch-up
give
episode
a big.
anyway.
Every episode is a catch-up
No,
episode.
but this one we didn't have a separate topic because we had so much catching up to do.
Batman versus Superman.
Don't do it.
Don't. And you
Yeah.
fucking people, so many of you did. It's making so much money. Stop giving Zack Snyder the ability to keep doing this, because this was bad. So anyway,
That's straight
Without
boy
going-
news. Straight boy news today.
farther
Beep, beep,
into.
beep,
Why
beep,
does it
beep,
have to be
beep.
straight? Why does that have?
Well, because I give the queer news.
Yeah, but
You give-
don't.
no?
That's,
All right.
movies are
I know.
universal.
All right.
That could come out of
Eric's
queer news.
Movie review.
If you want to talk about the straight boy news, it was watching the guy with the stick.
Ah, right.
I think
Okay.
watching the guy with the stick was definitely straight boy news,
Okay.
because I was jealous of a guy hitting a thing with a stick.
Excellent.
That's probably the straightest thing
I like it.
that can be. Okay, so Pat Sajak is
Or
not
Jerry Springer.
who we're talking about.
No, we're
Although
not.
I desperately want. Could you just make up a Pat Sajak story?
I'll work on that.
All right.
Can I add that to the list for next time?
Yes.
Okay.
But Jerry Springer.
Jerry Springer. So it's early 90s. It's the heyday of Jerry Springer. It is just, he's, I mean, this is, pre all the other reality TV show crap that now makes Jerry Springer just seem like nothing. And it was before, what's his face, who's married to Connie Chung?
Maury.
Yeah, before it was when Maury was still legit.
But
guy.
it was post Donahue.
It was post Donahue. I mean, Donahue wasn't doing, people throwing chairs at each other on the set and things like that.
But see, that's what was weird. Donahue and Jerry Springer, the format pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Same thing. Big audience, bunch of chairs in the front, walking around with a microphone.
Mm-hmm.
That's Donahue's format.
Mm-hmm.
But Jerry Springer just brought like pro wrestling into what was a nice conversation is what it used to be.
Right. And I'm going to digress momentarily to say that my favorite Donahue episode was when Neil Diamond was performing a Christmas program and played Hava Nagila.
Very nice.
So I'm going to just say that. Apropos of nothing.
I do not have a favorite Donahue episode.
I'm shocked to hear that. I can't believe
yeah,
everybody doesn't have a favorite.
That's one of
Donahue
the things
episode.
that if you put a gun to my head,
You wouldn't come up with one?
it's amazing.
Well, you can borrow mine. If anybody ever puts a gun to your head.
That's a good one. Neil
you
Diamond,
can say
Hava
Neil
Nagila,
Diamond, Hava Nagila,
Christmas
show.
special.
Mhm.
Okay. All right.
There you
If
go.
it's a
Bam.
gun to my head, I'll probably remember that. But
So-
Donahue was just like this blur
Right.
because it was on a lot.
Forever.
But
yeah.
it just all looked like the same
Yeah.
walking around
Yeah.
talking. All right. Anyway,
So-
all right. Sorry. The only thing that I do remember about Donahue is Jim, not Jim, freaking Saturday Night Live. The guy who got very muscular was with Eddie Murphy, and Joe Piscopo.
Ah, yes.
Joe Piscopo's impression of Donahue.
Oh,
I actually remember that
wow.
a lot more than I remember actual Donahue.
I'm going to have to
No,
look that up.
I'm wrong. Phil Hartman. Phil Hartman was doing Donahue.
That makes way more sense than Joe Piscopo.
Boy.
All
Anyway,
right, so
Pat Sajak.
Jerry Springer
Oh, yeah.
was in his sort of early heyday.
Yep.
Early 90s.
Yep.
And, he wasn't he a weatherman in Cincinnati? And was he actually mayor of Cincinnati at some point?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, which is terrifying. So I was working in Chicago and was working for this nonprofit medical continuing ed course kind of company.
In early 90s?
Yes.
Wow.
And it was just a super weird job. I was in college and I was editing all these medical documents, which was just sort of fascinating because I was just reading about all sorts of strange things all the time. None of that has anything to do with this story, except that the office was in Chicago in a sort of nicer part of downtown. And it was the same building as CBS or NBC or whatever the heck Jerry Springer was on. And I was running late for work one day because I was a college student and was trying to cram in, all these work hours around my school schedule and craziness.
And were you playing Tetris at the time?
This was after the Tetris year.
Okay.
A couple of years later. So I was driving at the time. So this would have been like 93-ish, 93, 94. I was driving an 82 Camaro. It was giant. It was really loud.
Nice.
The horn didn't work, which didn't matter much.
Who needs a
because
horn?
It was so loud.
Yeah, people know you're coming.
Everybody could hear me coming.
Yeah.
It was blue, and the hood of it was just painted primer blue, and then the rest of it was shiny blue. This gargantuan car, and I had traded my brother for this car.
Who took your brother for this car?
Yeah, that's a great question.
How did you do that? That sounds illegal.
Well, he was an adult at that time.
Give me that car. What do you give me for it? My brother. All right, we get it.
Okay, so
Can I just say that's a very lesbian car?
Well, the car that I had after that was an 84 Volvo station wagon, which was a super lesbian car. I have never gotten hit on by the ladies more than I did when I had really short hair. I was doing martial arts and I was super wiry and muscly, and I was driving around the city in an 84
You win.
brown Volvo station wagon.
Of course it was brown.
Yeah.
I don't think they had another
think
color at that
it.
time.
Yeah.
Okay,
so I'm
lesbianer.
So I'm in a navy blue 82 Camaro, and it's like 94.
Yep.
So I'm running late. I'm driving down Lakeshore Drive. I'm pulling into wherever I'm going to get to my job, and we had a parking lot right outside of the building, and I am pulling into this thing, and there's one spot, and there's some douchey guy who's walking through the parking lot really slowly. And there's one space open, and he's just sort of meandering slowly through the parking lot. And I'm thinking, like, I just want to like run into this guy. And I can't honk because I don't have a horn, but I'm thinking, you have to know I'm behind you. You have to know I'm driving this giant ship of a car, and it's like, just as I'm driving down.
Drop it in neutral and just like bury the gas pedal.
So the guy walks through the one and only empty parking space instead of walking through just the break in the lot to walk, to the sidewalk, walks through the only empty spot in the lot very slowly, just meandering around. And he's wearing this long camel-colored cashmere coat.
Nice.
Yeah, and I'm like, fancy pants guy. Because it's like a sort of fancy pants part of downtown.
Yeah.
And it's like corporate high-rises. And I'm this, 20-year-old snot-nosed college kid working this job at like wacky hours driving this piece of shit car. So I'm just super annoyed that this guy clearly doesn't give a fuck about anybody else on the planet. Finally, he walks all the way through the parking space, steps over the little guardrail thing, and turns to go into the building. And it's fucking Jerry Springer.
Oh my.
I was so close to running over Jerry Springer. It would have been a huge boon for American society if I had taken out Jerry Springer when I had the chance.
If you had taken him out, if you had eradicated him completely, maybe we never would have gone down the path of reality television that we did.
That's what
so
I'm
you
saying.
did have a kind of Terminator chance there.
That's what I'm saying.
But the odds of you killing him outright from where you were, you probably would have just given him a good thump and broke his pelvis or something, and he probably would have come back much stronger. He would have sued you.
Yeah.
You would have ended up on his show.
And he would have had some sort of bionic pelvis.
Oh, he would have something in there, some kind of neat new metal. And he would have fodder for many, many more shows.
Yeah, but that's not...
All you would have done is make him stronger. You're really better off for not having hit Jerry
on
Springer
that gas pedal, even though
with your powdery blue Camaro.
Navy blue.
Oh, sorry.
Come on.
That's ridiculous. Imagine if you hit Jerry Springer, but you don't kill him, and he finds out who you are, and then he meets you, and he has the typical reaction with everyone who meets you, and he's like, "Oh, you're great. I love you. You're wonderful. Come work with me." And you're like, "I'm not working with you, Jerry Springer. You're the worst thing that ever happened to American media." And he's like, "Yeah, but think of what we can do." And then you get sucked into it. You could be like an executive producer on like the Kardashians. Right? Do you know how lucky you are you didn't hit Jerry Springer? There is no positive outcome to that. You made the right choice.
Thank you. It's been haunting me for 20 years.
I wouldn't give it a second thought.
Phew.
Unless you could back up. If you could back up and get a good running start and like just smash him completely, you gotta know he's dead.
Yeah.
If he's not dead, then you're just making things worse.
All right.
So I think you made the right call.
Phew. All right.
Just not hitting anybody in general with your car.
It's the right call.
Usually the right call.
Yeah. So that's my Pat Sajak story.
That was a great Pat Sajak story. I don't know why my brain keeps doing that.
That's all right.
I'm not kidding. I keep going to say, I got to tell Caitlin to tell the Pat Sajak story.
Well, we got there.
Oh, wait a minute. No. Jerry Springer. because I can't remember anybody. So I'm glad you didn't do that.
Yeah.
You definitely wouldn't be here right now.
I definitely would
You
not.
would either
in one
be
way or
an
another.
executive in television or you would be in jail.
Right.
You would not be here right now. So,
yeah,
it's better that you didn't.
All
Although,
right.
if you did, and you could end up like knowing that you would know me, that coat sounds kind of cool.
I could have just grabbed the coat.
Just grab the coat
Yeah.
and just like, I'm probably going to meet some bald guy who likes long coats,
Yeah.
even though it's not 1987 anymore. He still likes to wear long coats. I would wear that coat.
Yeah.
Especially if it was Jerry Springer's.
I saw somebody recently in basically that exact same coat, which is what reminded me of the story. And I was like, that guy looks pretty cool in that coat.
Yeah, I bet it's a cool coat.
Yeah.
I would wear it. But I bet Jerry Springer's coat wouldn't fit me. Look at these shoulders.
You're pretty Jerry Springer-esque.
Oh.
You asked for that.
Me. Me. Okay.
So you have
I
a
like it.
story
I like it.
about music associated with
Yeah.
horror.
Yeah. Associated with horror. We know what the song is.
Right.
The song is Blue Oyster Cult, Don't Fear the Reaper.
Yes.
It doesn't just show up for no reason. I got to stop doing this with my hands. I find that I do this with my hands a lot.
I don't know what you're doing there. It's
Actually, you know what this is? I'll tell you what this is.
Rotating some dials.
When
you're doing.
Well, I'll start doing that. Boobies, boobies. When you're voice acting stuff, you cannot sit motionless. You can't. You have to You have to do this stuff with your hands. So when I talk to people just like normal people, I don't do a lot of this when I'm talking. But when you put a microphone in my face, now I get into the mindset of now I'm gesticulating. Not only am I gesticulating, I don't know if you've noticed, I don't talk this much. Out in the real world, talking to real people,
in fact, noticed that.
real situations, I barely
say anything.
A word.
It's true.
But you put this in front of my face, it just accesses some different part of my brain that I don't know how to access in any other way. You take this away from me, and I'm like, you guys talk. What are you guys talking about? Sounds good. I'll just stand over here. Okay, so.
Don't fear the Reaper.
Don't fear the Reaper. It's not going to come up for a little while.
Okay.
It takes a while before it even comes up because this is a convoluted,
of course it does.
Convoluted setup.
That's how all of your stories
All of my
go.
stories are convoluted setup, but they all have a payoff. So my dad and my grandfather buy this house together. My grandparents live on the first floor. We live on the second floor. And two gentlemen, older gentlemen, live alone on the third floor in a small unit. And they're just going about their business.
Right.
They're lovely guys. But it's important to know that my grandparents lived on the first floor.
Okay.
My dad got involved with a lady, and this is Fall River. We live in Fall River. My dad got involved with a lady who lived in Florida. So my dad used to, on the weekend, drive to Florida.
Whoa.
Spend a day and a half with the woman and drive back. Sometimes he'd take Monday off. He wouldn't always take Monday off. Sometimes he would drive down, spend overnight, come back on Sunday, go to work Monday morning.
What is that, like 16 hours?
It's, well, I drove down there once straight, and it took 19.
Oh.
19 hours.
Wow.
And he was doing this for a while.
Okay.
Because he was in love with the person who is now his wife.
Got it.
Ultimately, it worked out for him.
Okay.
But that was insane. But I'm 16, right? I think I'm 16 at the time. I don't have a license yet. It's like right before I get my license. So I'm walking. I have a girlfriend who lives in another part of town, and I have to walk to her house and back. My dad's gone for the weekend. So I say, I'm going to borrow my dad's shirt that he bought at the Chess King. Because we used to buy stuff at the Chess King.
Sure.
I had a sleeveless shirt. It was like white in the middle with like black going to where the sleeveless part would be
Right.
one of the 80est things. The only thing that would make this shirt 80s is if it was striped going across the front.
Right.
Black and white stripes going down would have made it a little bit more 80s. As it was really, really 80s. But I'm like, I look better in this shirt than my dad does, so I'm taking it.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't take it with him to Florida as his loss.
Right.
So he goes to Florida. I go to my girlfriend's house. I have to walk to my girlfriend's house, and I'm there, and we're watching Saturday Night Live in her bedroom because for some reason her mom's okay with that, that we spend copious amounts of time in her daughter's bedroom doing whatever might happen in a bedroom. And we're watching Saturday Night Live, and I fall asleep, and she falls asleep, and I'm just like dead asleep. She rolls over at one point and crangs me
Nice.
in the forehead with her elbow.
Yep.
Accidentally. She did not mean to, but pops me completely awake.
Yep.
So I go from dead asleep to completely awake instantly, which is an odd way to wake up.
Especially in somebody else's bed.
Especially in somebody else's
that
bed.
You accidentally fell asleep
So
in.
I don't know where I was. I don't know what was going on, and I panic. I'm like, oh my God. Because even though my dad's not around,
Right.
and I was doing stuff that I shouldn't be doing, it's not like I didn't care.
Right.
I was still worried about getting in trouble.
Right.
So I'm like, I got to get out of here. And then I got to get home, and I got to quietly get in my house before anybody realizes, because now it's 2 o'clock in the morning. So I got to get home. So I start walking home. And this is where it diverges. This is where people have said to me, well, no, Eric, the whole thing was a dream. But I know that it wasn't.
Okay.
So as I'm walking along, I go to sleep.
While you're walking
While
home?
I'm walking, I have a very clear memory.
How long of a walk
I don't
is
actually
this?
know. Oh, how long of a walk was it? 15 blocks.
Okay.
Say, not a huge distance,
Yep.
but, a half hour, 40 minutes of
Okay.
walking.
Yep.
So I go completely to sleep and go back into the dream that I was having in her bedroom. I'm just gone.
Uh-huh.
I wake up and I'm on
That
a
is
street
so weird.
that I don't normally walk
Yeah.
up. Usually I take like back roads or because it's my
Yeah.
neighborhood and stuff. Now I'm on the main road and I don't know how I got there. I just come out of the dream and I'm on the main road. My body autopiloted me to this place where I wouldn't normally go.
Right.
But I come out of it and I'm like, that was weird. And I don't know how I got here. I completely know where I am.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I'll just keep walking this way.
Yeah.
As I'm walking up the main road. Now you'd think that, it's like 2:30 in the morning or somewhere around there. You'd think that a main road would be safer than some of the back roads.
Right.
Because there's street lamps.
Right.
And there's like houses. As I'm walking along the sidewalk, and I hear a car park behind me. Like it pulls into the sidewalk, and it, you know the sound of a car
Yeah.
just pulling in to park.
Yep.
But it doesn't park. It pulls in and it just keeps parking. Like I'm like, what? So I look behind me, and this black Chevy Nova with like big mag wheels in the back
Never
is following me slowly up the sidewalk. So I stop and I turn around to say, "You guys okay?" The door flies open and some hands pull me in
What?
to the back seat of this car. So now I'm in the back seat of a blacked out Chevy Nova.
Uh-huh.
2 guys in the front, 1 guy in the back. The guy in the passenger seat clearly is the leader
Right.
of this gang of hoodlums. He says, "Hey, I want you to tell us where we can get some drugs because we've run out of drugs and we need to have more drugs. So you tell us where there are some. And if you don't tell us where there are some, then we're going to have to use you as our amusement."
Ah.
I didn't know what that meant.
It's probably best.
Probably not good. They probably
not gonna
weren't
be
going to
good.
take me to play Pac-Man. Something that I didn't like
Yeah.
was going to happen, whatever flavor
Yeah. Of
that happened to
badness.
take.
R-
I knew
It's
that
not
they
gonna be
didn't
good.
mean anything good.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, now this is, I don't know drugs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know alcohol. I don't know anything. I'm devoid of all of that.
And it's 2:30 in the morning.
And it's right.
pre-cell phone time, too.
Yes, it is.
So it's not
Right.
even like you can call somebody.
I had no idea I didn't even know how to begin to answer this request.
Right.
Then it occurs to me, I know one guy who smokes pot.
Yep.
So I'm like, well, and that's pretty much what I say. I know one guy that smokes pot. I guess we could go to his house and maybe he has some that he could give you. And they're like, okay, let's go. So we go to my friend Adam's
I'm
house.
sure Adam is super appreciative of
Well,
this.
I don't know because I get out of the car. Now, see, this is where people are like, what? What? I get out of the car. They pull into Adam's, up along Adam's house. And I get out and I walk up the sidewalk to Adam's house. And I go and to the ring, ding, ding, bing, bing. Nobody is waking up in Adam's house.
Mm-hmm.
Because now we're getting close to 3 o'clock in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure anybody who was in Adam's house was like, I don't want to know. They're either sleeping through what I'm doing or they just don't want to come answer the door.
Because nothing good happens. with
Nothing
somebody
good.
knocking
Nobody
your door
banging
at
on your
3
door at
a.m.
3 o'clock in the morning. There's nothing good that's going to happen. So this is my neighborhood.
Yep.
This is not their neighborhood. I don't know them.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the people in my neighborhood. This is my neighborhood. What I should have done is bolted through the backyard of Adam's house, jumped over the fence, and disappeared in the neighborhood somewhere.
Yep.
Hid. I was so frightened. I turned around and walked back to the car and got back
Like a good little cooperative
in-
puppy.
the back seat
Wow.
with the men in the back seat to
Wow.
tell them
I'm
nobody
sorry.
seems to be home.
Sorry, Adam's not awake.
So
I don't know what else to do.
we don't have any drugs. Sorry about that. I know that part of my brain was saying, well, nothing really bad is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're not. What are they going to do, really? Because at this point in my life, other than some obvious things which I had forgotten about at that point, not that much really actually bad had happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, you don't really think that anything really bad's going to happen. Most people don't.
Right.
You don't go through your life expecting horrific things to happen.
Right.
So I'm like, they're just bluffing and whatever. So I say, hey, haha, no drugs, sorry. And they're like, well, I guess we're going to have to take our frustrations out on you. Now, clearly, I'm being much more articulate than they were. So they start driving, and I'm still convinced that nothing much is going to happen.
Uh-huh.
They start driving up the main drag in Fall River, and they're listening to 94 HJY, because, of course, they're listening to HJY. And as they're listening to HJY, Don't Fear the Reaper comes on, which I'm sure it did every day at approximately 3:15 in the morning, which is where we were now. 3:15 on the weekend. Probably they were playing this. I don't think it's not like amazing that this song happened to be on.
Right. Right.
So that song is on, and it's a chilling song when you like really listen to it. But it was mostly kind of just background drone because they're driving me. They're driving me far away from my home now. We're going away from my home. I'm still convinced that nothing too bad is going to happen. The song is continuing to play. A motorcycle cuts them off and cuts in front of them and goes to take off. The guy driving like nails the gas to start catching up with the guy on the motorcycle. The dude who was the leader in the passenger seat pulls out a bat. The guy driving pulls out a 40 bottle. And this dude next to me gets, what the hell did he have? Some other implement. It wasn't a crowbar. It was something else. He had another thing. And they start brandishing these things out the windows at the guy on the motorcycle. And the dude with the 40 bottle throws it
What?
at the motorcycle. And they're screaming and going crazy. as Don't Fear the Reaper is playing. And now I'm like, oh no. Oh no. These guys aren't kidding around.
Yeah.
I'm in serious trouble. They continue driving, and they take me out to an abandoned part of Fall River, which is now populated, but at the time was not populated, called Fish Road.
Okay.
If you ever wanted to die somewhere,
Right. Fish Road in Fall River. Sounds like the place.
don't want to die on Fish Road. They pull into this like cul-de-sac thing and get out of the car, and I'm sitting there, and they're like, come on. And they leave the headlights on. So there's like the headlights are
Classic.
shining into the
Yeah. of
cul-de-sac.
course. Classic.
Yes. And again, I get it. I get it. I know it sounds like a movie. I understand. I get it. So I get out of the car because I don't have any other choice. And they're like, so we're going to beat you up now. They're really actually not being, it's kind of like very business-like. Like they're very kind of like, well, I mean, you do realize that we don't have a choice now.
Right.
I mean,
right.
this is the
Yeah,
contract
we
that
just
we've
have to.
built together.
Sure.
This is where we are. Sorry. So I'm like, and I'm still thinking, but they're not going to really. They can't really.
Yeah.
That's crazy. But just in case, I got a jean jacket on with the inside pockets of the jean jacket. And I got a bunch of shit. I used to carry all kinds. I had a Walkman and my wallet and other glasses and pens. And so I go to the hood of their car and I start taking all this shit out of my jacket. And I'm like putting it on there. I'm putting my glasses here. I just put my here's all my pens. I'm going to put
This
those.
is just like the kid who hit you in the face. And you put your viola case down.
It's kind of like that.
You're like preparing to get beat up.
Oh, I was preparing. I just didn't want my stuff to get broken. Whatever was going to happen, just don't break my stuff.
Yeah.
Now, of course, nowhere in my brain was like, well, if they beat me up, they're probably going to take my stuff.
Right.
If they beat me, actually, what was starting to go through my mind was, if they really do beat me up, they're going to kill me. Like they can't, they will kill me.
Right, because they've also just kidnapped you.
Right. So that's kind of in there, but I'm not letting that take hold.
Right. You're
'Cause
just
I know
focusing on
if-
getting your stuff out of
I just want to get my
pockets.
stuff, and I'm trying to just keep myself straight.
Right.
And I managed to keep myself so straight, it's a little bit ridiculous. So I get all this stuff out of my pockets, and I walk
And are
over
they
to
just
them.
looking at you like,
Yeah.
what is wrong with this guy?
I don't know what they're saying, but they are just looking at me.
Maybe they're looking at you the way that you were looking at that kid with the stick today, who is just happily
Possibly.
walking down the street like, oh, what a simpleton.
Look at this dumb little boy they were about to beat up. And I say little boy, they were probably a year and a half older than me.
Right.
You know, it's not like they were men. So I go over to them and I'm like, so what are we doing now? And the three of them just start wailing on me.
Oh.
Just wailing on me. And I just stand there. Literally. I
Yep.
just stand there.
Yep.
I'm really, really good at taking a punch. I am not good at delivering a punch. I'm exceptionally good at being punched. So I really, literally, honestly, just stand in one position
Wow.
while they walk around me in a circle, beating the back of my head and my body, and just to the point where two of the guys get tired
Oh, that's fantastic.
and stop and walk away to sit on the hood of the car like, oh God, what the? Oh, I gotta stop smoking because I can't even. Whew. So I figure in my mind, I'm like, well, that's a bit of an accomplishment.
yeah.
Maybe
two
this-
down, one to go.
Maybe this won't be that bad.
Ah,
The lead guy is like looking at me.
still has a baseball bat.
No. They weren't using any implements. They didn't hit me
Yep.
with any foreign objects
Okay.
at all. They were. It was just
Fisticuffs.
fists. The last guy, who's the leader, dude, stops hitting me, and he's like looking at me, and he takes my face, holds on to my chin, and starts moving my head around. And what I'm thinking he's doing is he's like, well, he's checking to see if they've done enough damage?
Uh-huh.
Like, have we injured this kid to the point where we could stop
Right.
now?
Right.
So he like puts me like this. What he's actually doing is lining my head up for a perfect last shot. And he hauls off and catches me completely, smashes these teeth. I feel my teeth explode down my throat. And my nose opens up
Right.
in a waterfall of blood. And the first thing that occurs to me is
You're wearing your dad's shirt.
I'm wearing my dad's white T-shirt. That's what goes through my brain first. Shit. My dad's shirt. God damn it. Then what goes through my brain is, oh boy, because now they've done a level of damage that
It's harder to walk away
they
from.
can't come back from.
Sure.
You can't just sweep that away.
Right.
Because I'm bleeding a lot.
Yeah.
Gouts.
Yeah.
Just huge torrents. I can't think of any more words that mean large quantities of blood. Just the front of my jeans, the shirt is destroyed.
Right.
The front of my jeans are shot. And it actually has the opposite effect of what I thought was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's like somebody hit him in the face with a bucket of cold water. And he went, oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing? And he goes back over to the guys and he's like, what the fuck are we doing? And they're like, I don't know. I can't remember what and they're like talking amongst themselves while I'm standing there bleeding. He comes and he takes me by the shoulder and he brings me back to the car and they start putting my stuff like fucking Planet of the Apes. They start giving me back my things and putting stuff in different pockets and like patting me down, and they put my head back and they put rags on my face and they're like, we got to take you to the hospital.
This is so weird.
And I said, what do you mean?
And you don't want to go to the hospital because you don't want to get in trouble.
I don't want to get in trouble.
I mean, you just want to go home.
All I wanted to do was go home. I'm like, I'll be okay. I'll wake up my grandparents. They can take me to the hospital. If you guys don't want to leave me here and you want to drive me you could drive me home. They're like, no. Fuck that. We're taking you to the hospital. You won't stop bleeding. They take me to the fucking emergency room and are waiting with me in the emergency room.
They didn't even just dump you there?
No. That would, just like in Batman vs. Superman, at least have made some sense. If they kicked me out the door and drove away with me in the emergency room, that would have made sense. And I would have been okay. And I think most people would have believed this story up to this point because it's not done yet. So we're all sitting in the waiting room. 4 of us sitting in the waiting room.
Like some weird little family.
I can't even begin to imagine what it must have looked like. Actually, you know what? An emergency room in Fall River?
Yeah.
It probably didn't even raise any eyebrows.
4 guys that were out on the town.
Somebody got hurt.
Now
Yeah,
it's
okay.
4 in
That
the
happens
morning.
all the time.
Right.
So they're all sitting there in the waiting room. I go in the bathroom, and just like I said last week, I look at myself in the mirror, and I'm like, what's going on? What are you doing? Even though this time it really wasn't me. This is not my fault, but it still was that kind of like Twilight Zone feeling of what is going on.
Right. How did
Unreality is washing over me again.
Yep.
So I wash off my face and I get the blood off me as much as I can. And I go back into the waiting room and I'm like, guys, why don't you just take off? Just go ahead, take off. I'll call my grandfather. I'm going to be okay. I kind of just want to go home. So we're no harm, no foul. Just go ahead, get out of here. I don't know who you are. I don't know your names. And they're like, what, you want to go home? I'm like, yeah, I just want to go home. Okay, let's go. We'll drive you home. Like, you're gonna drive me to my house? Yeah, come on, let's go. So we get back in the car. And they drive me to my house.
Yeah.
In front of the house where I live with my grandparents and my dad. All I want to do is get out of this fucking car. That's all I want to do. I want to knock on my grandparents' door. I want them to give me some pie. And I want to go to sleep.
Pie.
And I just yes. And I just want to be thankful that I'm not dead.
On
Now I'm
Fish Road.
home.
Yeah.
There's my house. I can see it.
Yep.
I'm like, it's almost over. I'm going to live.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was convinced they were going to kill me.
Right.
It eventually got to the point where I'm like, that's
Sure.
it. I'm dead.
Sure.
Before I get out of the car, the guy who was the leader of this gang stops me. And he looks over the seat back at me.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, just want you to know, you've got elephant balls. I've never seen anything like that in my entire life. You never fell down. You never cried. You never screamed. I don't even know what to say. You're like some kind of fucking superhero. If anybody ever gives you a hard time, you tell me, and I'll take care of him for you. You will? Could I make a phone call back in time to like 2 hours ago? Because
Girls
there's
beating
no
you
one
on the
in my
bus.
life who's given me a harder time
Then this guy.
than you right now. But he's like, way to go, little buddy. You sure did man up. And they open the door, and I get out, and they drive away into the night. Now it's 4 whatever
Oh my God.
in the morning. So it's 4 whatever in the morning. I want to, as I said, knock on my grandparents' door
Yep.
and have them wake up and go, oh no, what happened? Because I look like fucking Frankenstein.
Right.
I am mangled. That's not what happens. That's not what happens at all. What happens, and this, Grandpa, I have forgiven you for this like 1,000 times. So don't, it's just interesting. I don't hold this against the memory of my grandfather.
Okay.
His son was a heroin addict and a drug addict and alcoholic and died of liver. It was bad.
Mm-hmm.
I was a fruitcake. I was constantly tripping over things. I was kind of in a fog. Now we know why I was in a fog.
Mm-hmm.
But then we didn't know. I was just kind of a forgetful, sort of goofy, dumb, kind of clumsy guy. So apparently they had in their heads that I had been doing drugs.
Ah.
Me, who never did anything, they were convinced that I was on drugs actively.
Mm-hmm.
So when I knocked on their door at 4 o'clock in the morning, the story that became the truth was that I was out all night doing drugs.
Right.
And in order to cover the fact that I was coming in so late, I smashed my face against a wall until it looked like I had been beaten up by some goons. That was what was believed by everybody except my sister.
Mm-hmm.
My sister is the only person who believes me. Now, well, not anymore.
Yeah.
I think now everyone is like, you're still telling this story? All right. It's got to be true because you'd let it go by now.
Yeah.
No, that's the truth of what happened.
Wow.
So, yeah, I didn't get my pie.
That's amazing.
And
That's a
for
totally
years,
amazing
I had to
story.
go around and people would laugh at me and people at school found out about it and teachers found out about it.
Right.
And one teacher used to say, well, they didn't take you out for donuts at any point during the trip? What? I don't understand. How come you didn't get flowers from this guy? No one believes me because it is ridiculous.
It's totally ridiculous. But I mean, how would you possibly make something like that up? Of course it's true.
I don't know, Caitlin. I wish I did know.
I totally believe it.
Well, I think that's because
Because I'm
because you've gone through
Also
some
insane.
craziness, and because there's no, what would be the benefit to me
no,
at
because
this
it makes
point in
you
my life?
look like a complete nincompoop. To have, I mean, I understand getting pulled into the car in the first place, but then going up to Adam's house and then just walking back into the car, be like, boop, 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 boop. Now I don't know what to do.
Yeah, that's the part where it's difficult. It's really I can't remember why I didn't just like jump over a fence and disappear. It seems so obvious
Sure.
now, but I
Wow.
was so
Yeah.
frightened.
Yeah.
I was frightened.
Which, it makes sense. I mean, you don't think particularly clearly.
You mean in general?
In
You just said
moments
that
of
like a complete
fear.
statement. You, Eric, don't think very clearly. We've all established that and all agree on that. So what else
So,
are you going to do but get
there
back
you
in the
go.
car?
Yeah. But I get it. I do get it.
Mm.
I mean, my story about being in the fire, people have said, but couldn't you have done this or couldn't you have done that to find your way out or couldn't you have figured out, which direction? And it's like you're not thinking clearly in those moments.
No, you're not thinking clearly. But if you were out of the fire with your cello, I can't really think of any reason why you'd go back into the fire
That's true.
multiple times. Let's get back in the car again. How many times did I get in the car? They pulled me in. I got out
so
to go to Adams.
Doesn't count the first time when they.
No, I'm
they
just saying,
dragged
how
you
many
in.
times did I get in and out of that car?
Yep.
So they pulled me in. From Adams, I got in again. Then they took me to beat me up, and then I got in again. And then they took me to the hospital, and then I got in again. So 4 times.
Yeah.
3 times I chose
to get back in the
to
car.
get back in that car.
Yeah. Phew.
Yeah. Yeah, not a good time. But now it's not
I wonder if that's also a different gender thing. Girls learn very early on, like, just don't ever get in the car. The whole stranger danger, don't get in a stranger's car. I mean, again, you didn't have a choice the first time, but I think females are it's so ingrained the horrors of what can happen in a closed vehicle with 3 men.
Yeah, I think it would have been worse if they just... I mean, maybe it's great that they happened to stumble across me and not stumble across some woman
Yeah.
just walking around. Because initially they were
Sure.
adult.
There's no way that would have ended well.
No. They clearly were on something
Right.
initially, and it took the torrents of blood
Right.
for them to wake up.
Right. So
So-
they sobered up when they were
Yeah.
beating you up.
So maybe there could have been worse circumstances
Sure.
for somebody else. So maybe it's better that it was me and not somebody
Very
else.
nice of you. To
But
say
it
that.
is it's I forgot. So you mentioned the you mentioned the kid who broke my nose with the viola.
Right.
In this same time period, around this same time period, I didn't just have this girlfriend. I also had some friends that were kind of like scumbags.
Mm-hmm.
I was friends with scumbags, guys who would drink. I remember very clearly one night at a party, they would call this a party, and I have no idea what I was doing. You asked me to go out like last night to go to the hot club, and
Yeah.
you're like, I know you don't drink, but I'm going out with Steve, so maybe you want to go. That whole, I know you don't drink, I was hanging around with guys who didn't do anything but drink.
Right.
What was I doing? I have no idea. One night they had a party, and one guy got so drunk he was throwing up clear alcohol.
Ugh.
Like there was nothing
Blech.
coming out of him but just syrupy
Ugh.
alcohol.
Yeah.
They were like trying to kill themselves,
Yep.
drinking themselves to death
Mm-hmm.
while I'm not drinking anything at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very odd. But so we're talking about like 8 or 9 guys hanging
Right.
together. Something happened at some point. There was a split. There became a schism.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2 factions went off and they decided they didn't like each other.
Uh-huh.
I can't remember why.
Uh-huh.
I was with one faction
Like
and
just
there's
in the course of this
just
evening?
no, not this
Or
evening. I
in
just
the-
happened
in
to
the
remember.
grander sense.
Just
Okay.
just
All right. Got it.
something happened and
Yep.
they decided now we're 2 different teams and we don't like each other.
Okay.
The team that didn't like me, I don't know how because there's no internet. They found the guy who I fought in 7th grade. And now it's 9th grade. So
Okay.
again, even though it seems like a vast amount of time,
Right.
you're talking about maybe 3 years
Right.
maximum between that fight that we had
Mm-hmm.
and the time period that I'm talking about now. They find this guy and they call me up and they're like, we've decided it's going to be a rematch. We're going to have a rematch with Tony. I'm like, what? Who is it? Tony, you fought in 7th grade. There's going to be a rematch. All right. I'm like, it didn't mean anything
Right.
to me. It's like I had moved on.
Right.
But we decide, okay, fine, there's going to be a rematch. I think mostly because we're just all so bored. There's nothing to do. So, okay, we're going to have a rematch. So we live in Fall River, and I remember this just like crystal in my mind. In Fall River, it is comprised of nothing but hills. It's everywhere you go is a hill.
Right.
So we are going to meet at this playground at the top of this hill, and we're both walking up this hill to get to the playground at the top. And as they are cresting one side of the hill, I see this dude's head come up, but then it stops coming up.
Uh-huh.
So we meet at the playground, and he is at the middle of my chest. The top of his head is at the middle of my chest. And I look down at him and I'm like, do you really want to do this? Because I'm like literally poking him. Like, I don't think that this makes a lot of sense. Do you really want to do this? No, I didn't. Yeah, so we don't have a rematch. So they take their little short little man, and now I'm not like, I wasn't imposing.
Yeah.
I wasn't like I weighed 130 or 40 pounds. Like I was a stick.
Yeah.
But I was
tall.
3.5 feet taller than him. It was ridiculous. It would have been like beating up a toddler. And I'm pretty sure I can take a toddler. Even then. So nothing happened. So that story has no denouement whatsoever. It's just like, we're going to leave. Okay, we're going to leave too. And just everybody just walked away and nothing happened.
So, and so for whatever reason, the activity that was going to showcase the animosity between these two factions revolved around you and this random person having some rematch from 3 years prior. But the two separate factions, they weren't fighting each other. It's not like they were like, hey, let's have our own
rumble
fight.
Let's have a rumble. That would have been a rumble.
Right.
I think that maybe they thought that this fight would have then escalated
into an actual rumble.
I think.
Right.
It's the only thing I can think of. It's
And
the only thing that makes any sense.
the only thing that I can picture as I'm picturing all of this, which I also thought of when you were talking about the guys in the car and having the bottle and the bat and whatever the other thing was, the and also I'm thinking of the time period of this, and I know this wasn't the 70s, I know this was the 80s, but I'm thinking of that scene from Anchorman where all the different news crews go to the park and have a rumble.
It was
like,
the same
did somebody
level
have a trident?
I think somebody did have nunchucks.
Of course. I mean, it was the 80s.
It was the 80s, and there was always one guy with nunchucks.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure one of the taller dudes actually really did have nunchucks. I don't know that he could have damaged anybody.
And maybe like a Chinese star in his back pocket or something.
He might have. That would have been a little serious.
Uh-huh.
I think the most damage he could have done with his nunchucks is if he just like threw them at somebody and just happened to land
like
a
threw
lucky.
them and let go.
Yeah,
right.
just literally just. So none of us were dangerous.
Yeah.
These are not two dangerous gangs
right.
of hoods running around muck in Fall River causing mayhem.
Right.
No, there's a bunch of dweebs who just happen to drink a lot.
Right.
A bunch of dweeby drunks. There wouldn't be much of a rumble.
Right.
It would be a sad rumble. It would be a disappointing rumble. And the fact that nothing at all happened makes it just a little bit better.
I like it.
All right, so we're actually. Oh, I can tell you. Can I tell you my Linda Carter story?
Tell me your Linda Carter story.
Because this just because it's also something else that no one believes me.
Okay.
At all.
Excellent.
And we have enough time, and it's not that long, and it is about Linda Carter. I keep wanting to put an R on the end of Linda. It's aggravating the crap out of me.
That would be a Rhode Island accent. Linder? How do you even say that?
Linda Carter. Linda Carter. Linder Carta is what it would. Linder Carta is what wants to come out of my mouth.
By the way, what I've noticed in listening back to these is that I do indeed have a Midwestern accent.
You think?
Which I'm so not aware of myself normally.
That's
but
pretty
listening
mild.
to my voice recorded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's there, but it's
clear.
pretty mild.
It's clear I'm from the Midwest.
Yeah.
It's all right. I mean, if the alternative is Rhode Island accent,
No.
I'm good.
You don't want to be from Rhode Island. You don't want to be from Fall River.
So,
Speaking of being from Rhode Island,
yes.
actually, before we talk about Linda Carter, everybody in the world is making a parody video
Yeah.
of the Rhode Island tourism
Yes.
video.
As well they should.
And also the logo.
Yes.
Now, because it makes sense, I was going to make a parody video. In fact, I recorded a voiceover
Yeah.
for a parody video. Before I did it, I said to myself, you know what? This is a advertising agency in Rhode Island, and I'm trying to get like a foothold in Rhode Island.
Yeah.
So I contacted them, and I'm like, I know you guys are getting a bunch of shit for the thing that you made, but here's my demo, and I don't do like what that guy did. Oh, my God. Dude, can you lighten up a little bit? Are you talking at somebody's
Imagine a
funeral?
place
Jesus Christ.
that feels just like home.
It was too much. That's
Yeah, it was
too much
completely over the
depth,
top.
too much gravity. So and that's what I said to him. I'm like, that guy, and I didn't obviously say anything negative. I'm just like, that guy, a lot of gravity. I don't really do stuff like that. I tend to do things that are lighter and humorous. Here's my demo, just in case. Hoping that they wouldn't say anything at all, so I could justifiably say, well, fuck you guys, and here's my parody. But they instantly came back. And they're like, oh my God, we have this and this and this, and you should go check them out. And we think you would fit perfectly for blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, oh, fuck. The first time I find like a route and I actually do decent networking, I completely didn't want them to come back with something so I could have fun. Now I can't do my parody video.
Yeah.
Because I would be shooting myself in the stupid foot.
Yep.
So I'm not. Anyway, it's not... talking from a voiceover standpoint, people don't want to hear that kind of voiceover as much anymore.
Right.
You want it to be a little lighter. You want it to sound like somebody who's actually talking to you,
Right.
not emoting at your face.
Right.
You would never talk to another human being the way that guy is talking in the voiceover.
It's true.
You got to lighten up a little bit. Super heavy duty, serious. And for that, he did fine. I mean, it's good for that.
Sure.
The director needs to lighten him up. I'm sure the dude who did the voiceover is more than capable, but that's probably what he was asked for. So
Yeah.
whatever. All right. So Linda Carter.
Linda Carter.
I'm watching HBO.
Where are we here? Timeline.
It's same 80s.
Okay.
Everything's
All right,
the 80s.
everything's the 80s.
Everything interesting that happened to me happened in the 80s.
Got it.
Because bad, nasty things happened early, like late in the 70s, and then really just crap happened in the 90s. Everything good and cool and interesting, it all takes place in the 80s.
All right.
There's a lot of things that happened in the 90s, but they're not a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
The fun and interesting things happened in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
So we're back in the 80s.
Okay.
I don't know where in the 80s, 83, 84, we got cable. And my mom and dad are in bed, and I'm watching... What the hell was I watching? Probably... Oh, I know what I was watching. I was watching Night Flight on USA.
Yep.
Night Flight was awesome. You can actually get a membership to Night Flight
Yeah.
now and just watch all Night Flight all the time. All of the episodes. Uncut with no commercial, and just watch them. I'm seriously, it's like $5 a month.
Okay.
I'm seriously considering
Yeah, you are.
doing it because they had so much crazy, cool crap. So I'm watching Night Flight, and I don't know what the subject matter was. And it's late at night, obviously, because it's Night Flight. And a still picture of Linda Carter pops up on the screen.
Yep.
Just a still portrait of her from about here up.
Dressed as Wonder Woman?
Mid-chest up. No. I think I remember like a white collared
Okay.
shirt. Open, but not ridiculously open.
Right.
So there was some cleavage, but not a vast quantity of cleavage. It was mostly focused on shoulders up.
Okay.
A little bit below, but mostly we're talking about face. And I'm looking at it, and nothing is happening. There's no sound, and it's just sitting there. As I'm looking at it, I realize that there's a red dot in the screen. And I move my eyes, and the red dot follows where my eyes are looking. So I start looking around the picture of Linda Carter, and I go down closer to her cleavage.
Right.
And the red dot is following where my eyes are going. So I do that for a little while, and then instantly I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So I look away, and when I look back, it's gone. I swear to God, this happened. The FBI was watching me look at Linda Carter's boobs. I'm serious. I wasn't dreaming. It really happened. For reals. Why would their picture of Linda Carter just come up on the screen? It was eye tracking through my television, through cable. Why are you laughing? This is distressing. Because if they had that kind of technology in like 1983, imagine what they can do now. Think about it. Why are you laughing so much? I don't understand.
That's fantastic.
You don't believe that one?
No, that's the one I don't believe.
Okay.
That is the one explanation I've heard from you so far that I don't believe.
As far as I know, it's true.
Okay.
As far as my brain tells me,
all right,
that's the truth.
The part of your brain that wishes you were just standing on the side of the street hitting things with a stick. The tiny little part of your brain.
Happy doesn't have to think about things too much. Simple. Yeah. Anyway, the FBI was monitoring what I was looking at. Okay, so you're going on hiatus? You're going to be gone for a while?
I'm just going to be out of town for like a week and a half.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
not a long hiatus.
All right, so we'll be fine. Whose turn was it?
It's your turn.
Ooh, crap.
It is your turn to come up with a topic. And we might have a special guest next time.
Oh, really?
We'll see.
Okay. Yeah, we all know that Caitlin is leaving to go to be the president and CEO of New Orleans, which, you got. Oh, it is interesting to me that iTunes has accepted us.
Yeah.
Do you know that a human being has to make that call?
Really?
A human being has to listen to everything that you've recorded so far, at least as far as I understand. Maybe not everything. Maybe they're spot checking. But a person or group of people have to decide
actually had to listen to our podcast.
that this is legitimate enough to be
or at least
in
not
iTunes.
Illegitimate enough to ban from iTunes.
That's the question.
I mean, we're not breaking any copyright laws.
Maybe that's the thing.
And there's not some sort of ferocious child pornography, obscenity kind of stuff happening.
Maybe. And if the lines are that
like
broad,
the bar is pretty low.
Okay.
It's not a question of is this quality, is this legitimate?
I just want to know.
It's just
I just want to know
any of these other terrible.
I would like
things.
to see a list of the things that didn't make it. That would be very curious to find, and maybe that can be Googled because that might be an interesting thing to talk about. What didn't get approved to make it? But people are actually listening, and they haven't said other than you talk about yourself a lot.
Right.
Wait, you talk about yourself.
Yeah.
Too much.
I don't know anybody who's actually listening. Yeah. But I don't know. So you checking people's IP addresses to see where they're coming from?
No. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. If you just look at WordPress just tells you.
Google Analytics.
Yeah, same thing. WordPress will tell you people who looked at your blog
from where
around the world.
Yeah,
so I know Alaska, and I know some of my friends, and then I know some other people that I don't know. And I just want to know what didn't make it into iTunes. I'd like to see that list. Mm-hmm. And I would like to have been in the room while people were listening to this. Right. I will say that talking with a microphone in my face, as much as I do, you ever you probably don't have this. If you're walking down a corridor, like say you're just walking.
Okay.
You're just walking. And you become aware that someone is watching you walk. Do you forget how to walk?
Yeah.
You do?
Totally.
Oh, good. Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Oh, good. I thought it was just me. Good. That's great.
It's like when you look at a word too many times and you're not quite sure how to spell it, and all of a sudden it just...
Or you say the word too many times and it loses its meaning.
Or you think you're saying it wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Because that happens to me.
Yeah.
And then I get really, really angry. That I can't walk. I forgot what the natural, but that happens with my mouth. Like because I talk so much, I'm so aware of what I'm doing with my mouth all the time that I start forgetting how to do things with my mouth. Like the letter L.
Because you have to just count on it to go on autopilot.
Right.
And as soon as you disrupt the autopilot, then
it just falls apart. So I am far too much in my head. So that feeling of people are watching me walk, now I've forgotten how to walk, that's basically how I go through my life. I'm just barely able to hold it together. That's why I talk about myself so much, because I'm just barely keeping it together.
I think we're all just barely keeping it together.
And I think I just lost my R. Did I just lose my R in the end of together? Oh,
you
man.
did.
See what I'm talking about?
Together.
That's what I'm talking about. All right, so that's the end of us for now. We'll be back. I have no idea what the next topic is going to be.
Surprise. Mystery topic for next time.
I will let you know before you walk in.
You'll let me know.
I will let you know.
We just won't let any of our 12 listeners know.
So Caitlin is leaving, and we hopefully will have someone else take over. Because if not, I'm just going to sit here by myself and talk, which apparently I can do. And it doesn't seem to be all that hard. But just don't ask me to have a conversation with any real human beings walking around in the real world, because I can't actually do that.
All right.
So that's the end of Red Shoe Angels podcast, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.